Hello everybody! So in this video we're still working in our yellow fiction course book, Nelson Yellow Fiction course book, and we are now on unit 9, and it is a little story called One Snowy Night. Okay, it's on pages 43 through 45. First I'm going to read to you the story itself, which are page 40, 41, and 42. One Snowy Night. I will read it and then we will discuss it together. Okay? Afterwards, I will explain here about our question words, WH question words in English, and how to do your exercises for the spelling section. Then we will talk about the writing section, writing sentences, which wants you to be able to create questions. You have a statement, which starts with a capital letter, ends with a period, full stop, and then how to change that into a question. So we'll talk a little bit about how a sentence can be made into a question. Okay? Then in the writing exercise, the last part, it's about how to create a story and 3 very important elements you must have in a story, such as the setting, the plot, and the characters. Okay, but let's first listen to One Snowy Night. Okay, I'm going to read. You please read along with it. Okay, here we go. One snowy night. One winter's night, it was so cold. It began to snow. Great big snowflakes fell past the window of Percy's hut. "Brrr," said Percy. "I think I'll need an extra blanket tonight." He made himself some hot cocoa and got ready for bed. Suddenly, Percy heard a tapping sound. Tap, 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 tap. There was somebody at the door. Now, who could that be at this time of night? Thought Percy. He went to the door and looked out. There on the steps was a squirrel. It looked very cold and miserable. "I can't get to sleep, Percy," said the squirrel. "My bed is full of snow." "Oh dear," said Percy. "Never mind. I've got plenty of room for 2. The squirrel snuggled down into bed next to Percy and soon began to feel warm. Knock, knock. It was the door again. Now who can that be? Thought Percy. Percy wears his hat to bed. Standing outside were 2 shivering rabbits. "It's freezing," said one rabbit. "We're frozen," said the other rabbit. "Oh, you poor things," said Percy. "Come in and warm up." The rabbit squeezed into the bed next to Percy and the squirrel. There wasn't much room. "Could you face the other way?" Percy asked the squirrel. "Your tail is tickling my nose." Knock, knock. "Oh dear," said Percy. "Now there's someone else at the door." So I wonder how many animals come to Percy to stay the night because it's so cold. Okay, so this story we will talk about a little bit together. One snowy night, where Percy gets visited by many animals to try to stay warm. They have a very nice time. Okay, now let's open our book to page 43. And we're going to talk about spelling. In the spelling unit, we're working on the WH questions. These are called WH question words. Because these words, question words, have a WH in them. There is always a WH in them. Most of them begin with the WH. Only one, how, begins with the H and ends with the W. How. It is also a question word. Okay? One of the WH question words. Okay? All the rest begin with the WH. What? Which asks about objects or animals. Where? Which asks about places. When? which asks about time. And that can be hour or the month, day, the season, the year, anything in terms of time. When. Who, and that asks about people. Okay. Why asks to understand the reasons for a certain concept or action. And how asks the reasons that something mechanically work or just work together, such as the cogs that are working together. How do they do this? Why is the ocean so big? These kinds of concepts, okay? Those words are very, very interesting words, okay? Used a lot in science. Okay, now let's take a look here. You have your what, where, when, who, why, and which. Which is a very simple one, and it doesn't mean which. No, no, no. This which is given to you for a choice between, for example, coffee or tea. Which do you want to drink? Coffee or tea? Which one? It could be oranges and apples. Which do you prefer? Oranges or apples? Okay, so it wants you to make a choice. Okay, all right, that's our which. Okay, to specify between a group. Okay. Now, in the spelling section with these words, you need to look at part A and copy the sentences. Make sure you choose the correct WH word. Please remember to put a question mark. Where's my question mark? At the end. All questions finish with a question mark. No choice. Otherwise, it's not a question. Okay? Then, in the part B, you need to write the sentence that would go and answer each of the questions you've created here. So you will have in part A 1 through 6 to create the questions with hints given to you. And in part B, you have 1 through 6 answering each of the questions that you created here. Okay? Go slow and steady. If you have questions, you can send me a WhatsApp, contact me by WhatsApp, or send me an email, or ask mommy or daddy, okay, or big sister, big brother. Then on page 44, we have our writing sentences section. Okay, writing sentences. Now, in the writing sentences, we often make a sentence into a question. And we do this by adding some words, changing some words, and this helps us to create a question out of a sentence, okay? Always, please don't forget, always put a question mark at the end of your question, okay? You have to do it. Okay, so here in the writing sentences, it gave you the example, Percy made himself some hot cocoa. Hot chocolate is what it means. Hot cocoa is hot chocolate. Percy made himself some hot cocoa. So, Percy is our subject. Made is the past of to make. So, he did it before. And who did he make it for? Himself. What did he make? Hot chocolate. So, what kind of question? We can ask a question. What did he make? So what asks this? What did Percy make? Now, we put our WH question, what, in here, but made has to be switched. When we put questions in the past, we have to add the helping word did. And we change our understanding verb, our action, into its original form, make. What did Percy make himself? What did he make? Okay? So this is how we switch our sentence into a question. We add the what question. We change made into the helping verb, did, and its original form, make. And then we say, what did he make himself? And we finish with the question mark. Have to have the question mark. Okay? So, it wants you to write a question to match each answer. For number 1, the story took place in Percy's hut. Now, when it asks you the place, you have to use where. This sentence tells us that the story took place in Percy's hut. Where is what we want to know. Where did the story take place? It took place in Percy's hut. Okay? So where did the story take place? And you have to end it with a question mark. Okay? So you have the answers are here. Make the question that this answer gives. Okay? Then it wants you to ask your own question about the story and about Percy. Is Percy a nice person? Does he love animals? This kind of thing. Write a sentence to answer each question that you create. Try, if you can, to use the WH questions, okay? Because my examples were a do-does question. Now, in the writing, you have to work on creating a story and understanding what is the plot, what is the setting, and who are the characters. Pardon me. The setting is where and when a story takes place. So the story is explained where and when by the setting. Okay, in London in the 1800s. London tells me where, 1800s tells me when. Okay, the plot tells me what happens in the story. Sherlock Holmes discovered a golden watch. Dun 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 dun. What happens is explained by the plot. Sherlock Holmes discovers the golden watch. Okay, and now our story is going to develop where? In London in the 1800s, and our plot is about Sherlock Holmes discovering a golden watch. The characters are who is in our story. So we know that Sherlock Holmes, because I've been saying, is in the story. He's our main character, and then you'll have Watson and maybe other people. Your story can be different. Mine was just a made-up Sherlock Holmes story. Okay, now you are going to plan a story called One Windy Night. Not one snowy night, but one windy night. And then you're going to take a piece of paper and you're going to plot out the setting, the plot, and the characters. Okay? And in the setting, the plot, and the characters, you describe and you try to think about where and when your story, One Windy Night, takes place. The story, One Snowy Night, takes place in Percy's hut. When? On a snowy night. Okay? And what's the plot? Well, it's very, very cold, and the animals come to Percy for help. And then who are the characters? Well, Percy for sure, because it's taking place also in Percy's hut. And he invites all the animals who come to stay warm at Percy's hut. Okay? So there you are. You have your setting, your plot, and your characters. Okay? So you go through, you read, and you try to answer. Okay? There you are. That is Unit 9. At the end of this is the checkup. Okay? And that is a separate thing. There is no unit specific. But when you do the checkup, which is on the drive, you can look back at your other units and their lessons to try to help you remember to answer the checkup 3. Okay? Do feel free to look at previous lessons to help you remember things. Okay? Okay. Bye-bye.